Morning, everyone. This is John Ludwig again with the LHD retirement team, coming back again to continue our ongoing discussions through the summer, given COVID and the various challenges of being out in meetings with the various employees. We wanted to continue our process of getting you good content to help you think about the things that you are needing to think about through this time. One of the interesting times as we go through the process of dealing with COVID is what we've noticed is, the public as a whole, instead of traveling on vacation and things of that nature, is spending a lot more time around their house and looking at what ways to improve their houses and maybe gardening or cooking or doing various things. We want to put another perspective to give some focus on, and that is the financial life cycle, or some financial tips that you can be thinking about, regardless of your age, that you can be thinking about as you sit down and think about where you want to be into the future. So sit back. This is, again, just like the other ones, a 20 or 30-minute presentation talking about your financial life cycle. Where do we want to start? It is where most people start, and that is in their 20s. When we're in our 20s, we have all kinds of energy. We're entering the working field. We're thinking about what we want to do, but we sometimes don't really get started on the things that we need to do. We want to, but we don't think about what we need to do. So let's think about what those are. So one of those is when you're in your 20s, try to maximize your income. Work when you can, do the things that you can, but try to focus on maximizing your income. If you can, establish a budget. The budget basically is to control your spending. Sometimes we get in the habit of just going and buying whatever we want, and then we get ourselves in trouble. So think about 50% for needs, 30% for wants, and then 20% to savings and debt repayments. If you think through that, the other thing that we've talked about for the last 3 years out there at the airport is also establishing an emergency fund. In your 20s, try to get to that first $1,000 or $2,000 that is a readily available cash for you to have just in case of emergencies. Retirement, don't procrastinate. As I've talked many times out there with the various groups, one of the things that most 20-year-olds think about is I can do retirement sometime in the future. The problem is if we don't get started right away, the dollar amounts that we have to contribute later grow exponentially. And so don't procrastinate when you think about retirement. Think about what you could be saving today. Remember, a 25-year-old replace half of what you make only has to save 5%. The problem is if we wait till we're 35, that grows to 11. When we're thinking about retirement in your 20s, think about the Roth. Think about things that you can do to maximize the employer match and pay off your highest interest rate debt first. Investing, non-retirement, tie your risk to the goal. If you're trying to save for a home, save for a car, save for whatever, tie your investments to whatever you're trying to save for. Retirement as an allocation should be aggressive. You don't care whether the market goes down. In fact, you want to have it go down. What you have to do is think about that. Think also about the hands-off approach. Sometimes we get caught up in what investments we should be in and instead of just investing and letting it being done for us. So all those things are helping when we're in our 20s. From an insurance standpoint, protect yourself. If you have a high deductible health plan, think about using that and using an HSA to reduce your cost and things of that nature long term. Bundle your coverages, especially around your home and auto. I'm amazed at the number of people that have home insurance with one company, auto insurance with another, umbrella with another. If you think about bundling, sometimes there's discounts and things of that nature to focus on. Use term life policies if you need life insurance. Why? In your 20s, the cost of term is very inexpensive, and what you need to think about that long term is to have the extra money to put with other things that you want to have done. Estate planning. This would go without saying, but a lot of 20-year-olds never think about having a will or health care directives or things of that nature. Make sure you have one. The beauty of the program that you have with Principal is they allow you to get one done for free electronically. Take advantage of it today. It's something that you should be thinking about. And remember, don't forget to name a beneficiary in your retirement account. I'm still amazed at the number of participants out there at the airport that don't have a beneficiary that need one. Take the time to designate that today. Other considerations. Understand that your adult life is just beginning. Make sure you clean up your online presence. changing jobs, moving, all those things. Make sure you know what is out there and where they're at. Get your documents in order. You know, a lot of times when we're growing up, our parents keep our birth certificate, our Social Security card, and all that. Where's yours? Do you know? And do you have it? And if you don't, you want to have it kind of going forward. The other thing I tell people is the last one on here is usernames and passwords. A lot of times when we're in our 20s, we're thinking about, hey, we got all these usernames and passwords. There is no organization around to it. So what I encourage you in your 20s, get a good habit of using a username and passwords, or a password like LastPass that basically keeps all your passwords safe and secure. It's very important long term. And then last but not least, build and monitor your credit. Right? If you have a lot of credit and you're paying off debts and things of that nature, make sure you monitor your credit. Why? Because, you know, there's all kinds of things out there, and you want to make sure that you don't get caught in one of those things. So big picture, long term, always pay your bills on time. It helps your credit score, which helps reduce your insurance costs and all the other things in life. This is in your 20s, you're starting to get started. When you're in your 30s, relax. You're still only 10 years older than when you're in your 20s. But life kind of changes. Usually in our 30s, you know, things are kind of evolving around, hey, we're getting married, we're having kids, we got a family, we're thinking about different ways to spend money. And so it's a balancing of goals and what you want to do. Just like in your 20s, it's around focusing on having a budget. What you have to do is focus around now multiple savings goals, maybe not just your own. Sometimes buying a house, don't try to avoid using your retirement account for that. Don't become house poor. Don't buy a bigger house than you need. It's great today that interest rates are really low. That helps you buy the kinds of houses that you want and hold your payments down, but don't become house poor when you do it. Starting a family, getting married, total financial transparency. Right? If you're getting married, you know, look at how your finances together versus separately. It helps you have a better outcome long-term down the road. If you're having kids, you need to boost that emergency fund 2 to 3 months of your living expenses. Why? Because kids do stupid stuff. I have kids, you know what, they fall, they break their arm, they do all things, and what you have to do is just focus on where those emergencies kind of happen, and you can't plan for them. That's why they're called emergencies. Consider a cost of child care. Start saving for education right away. If you haven't, you're starting to have kids, think about setting up the Indiana 529 to help save for college that way. Again, changing jobs, avoid cashing out, make sure you keep your money invested in retirement accounts long term. In the 457 plan now, think about increasing your contributions, and if you haven't increased it since your 20s, think about increasing it 1% per year. Keep in mind, a long-term aspect of the 457 plan is you need to average 10% through your working career to be on target when you want to retire on your terms. If you don't want to retire on your terms and you don't care, then you really don't need to save. But the problem is most people want to dictate when they want to retire and how they want to retire. Here's one of the steps that you need to get there, and you need to do that each time you do there. If you have non-mortgage debt, try to think about paying off that non-mortgage debt. It helps you become a better saver long term. What you have to do is focus on that process. Investing, non-retirement. Again, continue establishing new goals and readjust your risk tolerance accordingly. Put all excess savings behind your emergency fund to work. If you built 4 or 5 months up, leave 2 or 3 months in the savings account, use the rest and invest it. It helps you have a bigger account long-term down the road. Retirement, you still need to be aggressive. Right? You still have 30 years to go for retirement. There's no sense being too conservative too fast. You need to be thinking about what the future is. Insurance, protect yourself and your assets along with your family. Right? Periodically shop your insurance coverages, your home, your auto, see what you have. A lot of people get their home and auto policies, and I'm amazed that they just write a check and they don't ever look at that stuff. Take the time to every 3 to 4 years reviewing what coverages you have and are they appropriate. Reassess the family medical needs. Higher family HSA limits. Consider term life insurance if you need additional coverage above what the employer provides you at the airport. So think about those things to help you. Again, as you have kids, guess what? You probably need to be thinking about you need to update your will, what are you going to have for guardians for your kids, right? And make sure your beneficiaries are up to date as well. All those things seem simple, but seem like we lose track of them because we live in busy lives, and as our lives get busier, especially when we have kids, and we really need to save one of those processes long term. All right, we get through the 20s, the 30s, guess what happens? The 40s are just around the corner. You're celebrating your 40th birthday. You got to expect the unexpected because life happens. All of a sudden, the ibuprofen becomes an important part of where you're at. 40s are your prime working years. What you have to do is take advantage of your prime working years. Discretionary spending, avoid the urge to spend on money or material things that your children are going to outgrow. You should be trying to maximize your HSA if you have one. Retirement contributions should now be between 10 and 15%, right? Exclusive of your employer contributions. Home upgrades, be smart about what assets you use and what you update. Investing, education accounts, tie investment strategies to each child's time horizon. Who's going to go into school and when? Remember, the HSA, as you build up your account balance, look at what you should be investing above what the expenses are for that year. Take advantage of what those the systems give you. Non-retirement, continue to dollar cost average into your investments. It will help you give additional money. Again, if you need it for an emergency down the road, you can still pull the non-retirement account out versus using your retirement account. And retirement in your 40s, you're going to start gradually reducing your risk. Now, I don't know what that is for each and every one of you. Each and every one person is different, but in your 40s, you start, as you get to the late 40s, you now start visualizing what retirement is. You don't have a full picture of it yet because you're just not there yet, but you now start thinking about what that might look like. Insurance. As your family grows, you need to be rethinking what your insurance is. Think about what that is long-term. Adjust term life policies for income replacement needs, right? Because as you go through your 40s, your income's growing. Is it going to help if something were to happen to you? Pay out of pocket for smaller expenses from your HSA, and if you don't have one in your 40s, get an umbrella policy. Umbrella is a general liability around your home and auto, and as you build wealth, you want to protect that wealth. In your 40s is a good time to start thinking about it. Estate planning. If your assets are growing and you need to think about a trust, think about if it warrants it or not. Keep your will updated, right? As changes in who your guardian is or who should be your executor, if those things have changed in your 40s, you need to be thinking about what that is. Again, maintain an updated beneficiary designation, and if you need one, let us know, and we'll give you one of our resource guides, which will help you kind of start putting things in order in the time frames that you need. All right, we're now through the 20s, the 30s, and 40s. And lo and behold, guess what's next? We're in our 50s, and guess what people think about in their 50s? They can now picture retirement. You can't even stop thinking about it in your 50s. In fact, you think about it more in your 50s than you do in your 20s, 30s, and 40s combined. In your 50s, all of a sudden it comes into picture and what you have to do. Why? Because you start putting the pieces together. Your retirement picture is you've got the various the puzzle pieces, and all of a sudden they start fitting together about what you want to do. If you need help with what that looks like, let our team know. We'll be happy to help you. Increase your emergency fund to 3 months of your living expenses. Why? Because as you get in your 50s, you got to be prepared for those emergencies so you don't get off track or you don't borrow from Paul to pay for Peter. It's very important in the grand scheme of things. Take advantage of an HSA catch-up after age 55. It's a special $1,000 catch-up. If you have one available, increase your retirement contributions to 15 to 20%. Lo and behold, the first time I was out doing meetings, I told everybody in the room that they need to save 15%. I was not kidding you. Most people don't start early enough, and they wait too long to get started, and so in the latter part of their life, they have to contribute as much as they can. Remember, you have a catch-up contribution available for you at the airport. Take advantage of it when you're in your 50s. Investing. Monitor your risk as you approach retirement. Remember, if you're investing part of your HSA, make sure it's invested and you monitor it ongoing. It's not a set it and forget it. Education accounts. Rebalance 529 accounts to roll down to another beneficiary if your kids are going through them and they're not using all their money. Non-retirement, rebalance and readjust your allocations as needed, and retirement, begin dialing back your risk appropriately. Insurance. Drop older kids off your insurance. I'm amazed at the number of couples that we talk to that have their kids still on their insurance and they don't necessarily need to. Make sure you take the time to review your insurances because there might be cost savings for you. If you If you still have kids at home and you still have the need for life insurance and your term policies are running out, you may want to look at extending those coverages for a period of time going forward. Estate planning. Now is the time to get your estate documents in order, updated and organized. Now, you've done that basic will, you've got the HIPAA, you're now in your 50s, now need to think about organizing where things are at and who has them and what kids need to be responsible, or if you need to be looking outside of the family. Wills for children, right? Are you talking to your kids about having their own will, given that they're now young adults? Sometimes we have to take the responsibility of putting them alongside of us and say, here's some things that you need to do. Ready or not, here I come, retirement. In your 60s now, not only did we think about it in our 50s, in our 60s now it becomes really in focus. It's all the things that we hear, and most importantly, what people think about is, can I afford, let me repeat that, can I afford to retire? It's very important because we start thinking about it, right? So we need to think about, hey, are we doing the things that we need to do? Maximize your HSA contributions, maximize your retirement contributions while you still can, right? The beauty of the system is as long as you're working, you can save for retirement. Maintain the 3 to 4 months of your living cash, expenses in cash. Can be less depending upon your overall financial strength, but you want to have that emergency because as you get closer into the date that you're going to retire, you're going to need a little fluff money to get you through that first few months or the first 6 months or year as you adjust to retirement. Cut out excess expenses. Now you need to start thinking about your Social Security strategy. Now, last month we did a little Social Security update for everybody, and we also did a Medicare. Think about those things that we were talking about then. The pitfalls about claiming early, especially why if you're still working, consider the benefits of by delaying, right? Those all become important because that will help you dictate what you're going to have in the future. Remember, here's where you're going to start establishing what your retirement budget is going to look like. You'll be able to visualize what Social Security is going to give you and what your retirement account is going to give you as well. What you have to do is think what those are so you have those long term. You're going to be paying yourself the paycheck. It's not coming from the airport anymore. It's coming from your accounts. Have you saved appropriately so you can have the drawdown strategy that's important to you? Overestimate your living expenses in retirement for planning purposes. I tell people today that they will spend anywhere from 20 to 30% more in the first 5 years of retirement than they did the last 5 years right before retirement. And the reason why is when we retire, all of a sudden we have all kinds of things we want to do and we go out and spend money like crazy. You have to be prepared for stuff like that. Investing, non-retirement, focus on tax efficiency. Retirement, continue de-risking, but not too quickly. If we get too conservative too fast, we will outlive our money. We have to be thinking about that long term. Insurance, Medicare, claim on time to avoid penalties. Remember in our last meetings in July, we talked about Medicare and what the importance of those decision timeframes are. Right is the right supplement policy for you. Review policies and cut out unnecessary coverages. Let your term policies expire if you don't need them anymore. Look into long-term care coverage. The problem with long-term care coverage today is it's very expensive. Why? Because the insurance companies know people are living longer, and as we live longer, the likelihood of us going into a facility is growing. We need to be prepared of how we're going to pay for those expenses. Estate planning. Establish the appropriate powers of attorneys. Start looping in your children so they know what you want to have done. Don't leave it for guesswork. Take the time to do the things that you need long-term. Other considerations. What is your desired retirement date? Are you retiring at 65, 66, right? Where do you want to live in retirement, right? Be prepared so you understand what those frameworks are and what things you need to change, especially if you're not going to live where you're living today. What will you do in your free time? A lot of people retire and don't think about what they're going to do. Now, most retirees, once they think about what they do, tell me that they're busier than when they were working. The problem is do you know what you want to do with your free time? Because all of a sudden it's going to be vastly right in front of you. And if you just go out and start spending money every day, that's going to create a problem. Why? Don't feel like you have adequate funds saved for retirement. Now you have to think about part-time job and where you're going to work and what Social Security strategy. All those things kind of come in play as we get to our 60s. You're retired, not dead. Live your best life today, right? Because in retirement, it's there. Your paycheck now is coming from you. Focus on tax efficiency. Your drawdown strategy, required minimum distributions, because of the Secure Act at the end of last year, is now at age 72, not 70 and a half. You don't have to tap your retirement accounts early. Remember what those are. Pre-tax 457 in IRAs, right? Roth as well, unless rolled into a Roth IRA. Think about conversions and things of that nature as you get into retirement years. Investments. Focus more on what you keep instead of what you make. Don't risk outliving your money. Maintain a portion of invested for growth. Shift your focus to legacy planning. Are you a charitable person? Do you want to give anything to your kids, or do you want to spend the last dollar on your last day? Everybody is a little different. Beware of elder fraud and targeted scams. They're all out there today. I can tell you, I talk to them right and left. It happens, and so you have to be prepared for some of these things. Make sure you keep your passwords safe and change them frequently. As we get older, that gets harder to do. Put trusted contacts on your file for financial advisors, right? Why? Because if something happens to you, who should the advisor talk to? This is just one example of life's many puzzles. Let us help you piece yours together. It's there for you long term. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't go to the next one, right? It's the journey. It's the slide that you guys have now known me for out there at the airport. It's the road sign or the exit sign, almost like driving into the airport itself, 4 things that you have to do to plan for retirement. First one is have a goal. You guys know what the goal is. How much should you be saving, and are you saving enough? Remember, you need to average 10% through your working career. 2, choose the appropriate investment options. You have 3 ways to invest. You can pick your own funds. You can be in the models that were developed out there for you at the airport, or you can be in the target fund based upon when you turn age 65. It's a matter of how much time you want to spend with investments, not timing of the investments. Don't forget about inflation. If you're putting it in cash, guess what? Cash is now getting closer to 0. Why? Because the Fed lowered rates to 0. Think about that long term. Do you want to be putting more money in because you're not earning enough, or should you be an investor? I think retirees today are going to have to deal with a little bit more volatility because of the market and where interest rates are. You have to be prepared for that and start thinking about that. Number 4 is the most important. That's why we're doing this meeting today. You have to stick to the plan. When was the last time you looked at your investments? When was the last time you increased your contributions? When is the last time you did the things that you need to do? Take the time today to do those things. Remember, you can access your account whether it's on the phone, the tablet, or the computer. You have mobile functionality, so take the time to do those. You can also do the retirement wellness planner, putting your information in from various accounts to see whether you're on track or not. Take the time to use the tools and resources that the airport has put together for you long term. So I know that some of you are still thinking today, where are we at with the market? What are our thoughts around the market? The economy, U.S. officially, is in a recession. Unemployment still exceeds 10%. The length and depth of this is partly determined by the healthcare response. Recent data has been encouraging, though. All good things, right? We're still living through and adjusting to what we're doing with COVID-19. Stocks, positive momentum. In fact, we've seen a down 34% in March and up and now almost back to break even for the year. Growth today, though, looks a little stretch, right? Will we have a correction? Yes. Will we have it in the next week? I don't know. Will we have it in the next quarter? I don't know. What I know, though, is that we'll have more volatility as we get closer to the election or a healthcare response or various other things that can basically dictate whether the market's going up or down. The problem is you have to look past those things and become an investor, not trying to time the market. Internationally, global is a disaster overseas. They were almost in a recession prior to this. COVID-19 just pushed it there. Emerging markets is probably a little easier for them. Bonds, corporate bonds are attractive, but let me tell you what attractive is. A 10-year corporate bond today, investment grade, is probably between 1 and 1.5%. The 10-year treasury is about 0.5. So is it attractive? Yeah, it's 0.5 versus 1.5. I don't think anybody out there at the airport is going to get really super excited about earning 1% on their money for the next 10 years, right? You need to be thinking about what you want to have long term, and you're going to, as you retire or live in retirement, have to adjust to where the market is today. It's very important. As we wrap up, remember, if you don't have a beneficiary on file, make sure you get one. If you haven't checked out Kyle's blog, I know he's been out there to do a couple of meetings out there at the airport for several of the groups. He's got a blog post out on our website called Life is Weird Right Now, and the market is too. Welcome to 2020. It's a great little read. Take the time to sit back and read it. Remember, these are the resources that you have available to you. You have a plethora of them to use. Take the time to use those at your leisure. Questions? Right? At the end of the day, if you have questions, our team is ready to help you make the decision that you need to make to help you retire when you want to retire. Take the time to use the resources. Reach out to the team if you need help. You can always log on to our website and get various tools and resources as well. We're here to help you. Thank you again for your time today. Again, John Ludwig, LHD Retirement Team, looking for you to do the things that you need to do while we're sitting in cleaning up all the things at our homes. This is just one of those things to clean up your finances as you do those. Thank you again. Have a great rest of the day. The LHD Retirement Team is here for you.